Thank you very much. I'm going to call the meeting to order at exactly 6 p.m. This is the RM Springfield meeting agenda for April the 15th of 2026, so titled 2026 Financial Plan Hearing. All of council is present, as well as our financial officer, CEO, assistant CEO, in the capacity of running the computers, and Holly, sorry Holly, I didn't get your whole title there, but I'd say assistant financial officer there. This is going to be a meeting that's regarding only the financial plan draft for April the 8th. So if we can go to item number 3, everybody should have a copy of that. We'll have it on there as an overhead. But the presentation is going to be conducted by our AMRAM, and I will turn it over to AMRAM.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. Thank you, Mayor Pat. Good evening, everyone. We're presenting the 2026 financial plan. We have some slides to go through. So this is the 2026 financial plan presentation to council and to our residents. Today, Wednesday, April the 15th, 2026. Next slide. Welcome to the 2026 financial plan hearing for the RM of Springfield. This presentation provides further information that supports the budgeted figures in the financial plan. The goal is to help residents understand council and management's rationale behind the numbers that make up the budget. Next slide. So we'll be going through some of the assessment and property tax mill rate details that we have on the slide. We have a chart here, 2 charts. On the left, we have a table that shows historical assessment figures for the last 10 years from 2017 to 2026. And it shows the assessment, the movement in assessment, that is the changes in assessment from year to year, and years that are, or that were assessment years in asterisks. So 2026 is not a reassessment year. The RM's assessment is 2,052 million that we have there. On the right-hand side, we have a chart that compares the movement in assessment to the movement in mill rate. And we can see on the far right in 2025, when it was a reassessment year and there was a decrease in mill rates of 3.16%. In 2026, the budget that is presented to council and to our residents is with a proposed mill rate increase of 2%. Next slide, please. On this slide, we're showing a comparison of the municipal tax portion of the bill versus the school division education portion, which includes the education support levy and the levy for the school division. So school division tax is 56% of the total bill, and the RM municipal tax is 44% of the tax bill. Next slide, please. And here again is a further breakdown of the composition of tax to our residents. On the residential, it is broken down. On the left-hand side, we have the municipal tax. This is when we compare the municipal tax to the school tax and the education support levy separately. Municipal tax, 33% of the total, school division, 42%, education support levy, 25%. And then on the right side of this slide also, that is the left side is for residential. On the right, we have the example for commercial. Municipal tax, 35%, education support levy, 24%, and school division, 41%. Next slide. Here we have examples of how the property tax is calculated, and for a sample for a residential property with a value of 500,000. We're comparing what the tax would be 2026 with a 2% increase on the mill rate versus the tax that residents pay in 2025. So in 2025, on the left-hand side, school division tax was 2,681, not including the home affordability tax credit. And municipal tax was 2,177.32 cents. And then on the right-hand side for 2026, we can see school division tax is 2,875.27 cents, and municipal tax 2,220.75 cents. On the bottom of this slide, we can see municipal tax with a 2% increase will result for $500,000 assessment value to an increase of $43.43. On the school division side, it is an increase of 194.17 cents. Again, this figure for the school division did not take account the home affordability tax credit, which is up to $1,600, and when applied, will significantly reduce the school division tax, if not eliminate it for some residents. Next slide, please. Now we have the tax example for farm property. Their portion assessment is 26% of the property value, so same $500,000 value. In 2025, school division mill rate was 11.916. So the tax was 1,549.08. The municipal tax was 1,258.01. In 2026, the school division tax is 1,661.27 cents. The municipal tax, 1,283.10 cents. And the increase as a result of the school tax increase and municipal tax increase, municipal tax is $25.09. And then school division tax, $112.19. The next slide, please. And here we're comparing now the tax that a commercial property would pay. 2025 school division tax, $3,872.70 cents. Municipal tax, $3,145.02 cents. In 2026, the school division tax will be $4,153.17 cents. Municipal tax, $3,207.75 cents. So the increase for municipal tax with a 2% increase on the mill rates, the same $500,000 assessment would be $62.73. For school division, the impact is $280.47. Now we're going to look at the general operating fund. This gives us a summary of our entire budget, both the operating and the capital relating to the general fund. From the top, we have our revenues, the tax levy, and the 2026 column highlighted in light blue color, 51,210,539. Then we have the school requisition, the taxes collected on behalf of the school division and the education support levy, 30,255,594. That gets us to a net municipal tax of 20,954,945. Then we have other revenue. This includes revenue from services, grants that are budgeted for, and some of those grants relate to capital and some to operating. 14,708,144. And then we have a revenue that is coming in from accumulated surplus, 1,100,000. This is to partly fund the Springfield Community Recreation Center project that I've started. And then transfers from reserves, mostly also for capital projects, 13,685,411. So a total municipal revenue of 50,448,500. This covers our municipal operating expenses to maintain services and improve on services to our residents. $21,010,041, an increase of $1,006,454, 5% increase over the 2025 budget. Fiscal services, the capital relating only to the general fund, $919,525,842. And then fiscal services that relates to debenture and other fiscal items, $1,219,832. Transfers to reserves, $8,692,785. Those include development levies that will be collected and transferred to the sewer and water capital reserves. So to a total expenditure of $50,448,500. That matches the revenue, a balanced budget. Next slide, please. So on this next slide, we're presenting the same information, but in a different format. On the right side of the slide, we have the revenue breakdown that adds up to the $50,448,000. As we've seen on the previous slide, the municipal tax, $20,200,812. Grants in lieu, $754,143. And then the grants that comes in from the federal government, $1,389,030. Grants from provincial governments that are budgeted for $7,008,465. And other revenue from services, user fee $6,310,649. And then we see again the transfer from accumulated surplus for the rec center project, $1,100,000. And the transfers from reserves for the capital project, $13,685,411. On the left-hand side, we have a pie chart that shows the category of those and the percentages of the total revenue. Municipal taxes, 40% of total revenue. The grant in lieu, the $754,000, that only relates to the municipality, 1%. The federal grant is 3% of the total. The provincial grant is 14% of the total. The user fees, the services the RM provides to residents, 13%. The accumulated surplus amount is 2% of the total, and transfers from reserves, 27%. Next slide, please. And this just gives a listing of the various revenue sources, the other revenue sources. User fees for recreation programs, permits for development, aggregate mining fees, fire department recoverable costs from MPI, fees from hand event services, licenses, to name a few. Next slide. Now we're looking at the expense side of the budget, and we have these four broad categories that make up the total expenditure: our operating expenses, the capital expenditure, debt servicing, and then transfers to reserves. Next slide. This is also broken down for us, like we saw on the revenue slide. On the right-hand side, we have the various components of the total expenditure. Municipal operating expense, the $21,010,041 for operating services. The total capital expenditure for the general fund, not including utility, $19,525,842. Our debt servicing, the debenture payments, $1,087,732. Other fiscal service costs for things like tax allowances, tax write-off, $132,100. Transfers to reserves, which a huge portion of it is to replenish reserves that will be withdrawn for capital projects, 8,692,785. And we have that on the left-hand side also. Operating services is 42% of the total expenditure, capital infrastructure 39%, transfers to reserve 17%, debt servicing 2%. Next slide, please. And here it's also further details about our operating expenses. This breaks down the operating expense line item, and it shows the various segments. General government services is 16% of that total operating line of 21 million. Protective services is 12%. We look at the chart on the right-hand side. Transportation services, 41%. Environmental health services, 13%. Public health and welfare, it's not really significant. Environmental development services, 4%. Economic development services, 5%. Recreation and cultural services, 8%. Next slide, please. Now we have some more details about each of these operating segments. So general government services includes council services, council and legislative services, the office of the CAO, admin and finance, human resources, IT and asset management, the annual audit fee, assessment levy, and also elections, given that the year 2026 is an election year. This service cost for general government increased 8.3%. And that is driven mostly by salary pay scale increases, budget increase for the 2026 elections, admin office building lighting, increase in software licenses and IT related costs, increase in assessment levy. The levy paid to the province for the assessment services it provides to municipalities. The next segment is protective services. These include the community safety officer program, the fire services, facility maintenance, emergency measures, 911 services, animal and pest control, building inspection. This service costs decreased 11.5% from 2025, mostly due to the elimination of the Springfield Police Service. Next slide, please. Transportation services. These include road construction services, dust abatement, sidewalks and boulevards, street cleaning, snow and ice removal, bridge work, and street lighting. This service costs increased by 5.5%, mostly driven by union salary pay scale increases that came from union negotiations, increase in road construction costs in terms of labor, materials, and equipment rentals, and increase in costs for street lighting. Next slide. Environmental health services. This is for garbage and waste collection, municipal non-potable wells, and other environmental studies. Service costs increased 12.6%, and the increase is driven by garbage pickup contracts at transfer stations and purchase of new solid waste bins, which does not occur every year. but in 2026, solid waste bins will be purchased for solid waste collection. Next slide, please. Public health and welfare services segment. This segment includes cemeteries, handyvan, and social assistance. And as we saw on the previous slides, the cost practically remains the same compared to 2025. Next slide. Environmental development services. This include planning and zoning, economic development, beautification, and land rehabilitation. Service cost increased by 14% from 2025, mostly driven by mandatory water and wastewater studies that have to be undertaken by the planning department. Next slide, please. Economic development services include West Nile virus, destruction of pests, drainage of land, tax incentive grants, rural weed control, and water services. Service cost increased 16.8%, mostly due to increase in drainage of land costs. Next slide. Then we have recreational services. And in this segment, it includes recreation administration, community centers and halls, skating rinks and arenas, parks and playgrounds, services to our seniors, grants to community clubs, museum, and library costs. The service cost increased by 3.7% compared to 2025. There's pay scale increase, service to senior costs increase, and it is mostly driven also by the aquatic service costs for the pool services that the RM will be operating once the SHHI building is completed. Next slide, please. Now we will take a look at the capital projects. This slide shows a picture of the total capital projects. That's the bar, the dark blue on the far right. And it's both for the general fund and the utility fund. So the total capital project is 29,551,000. Of that, 10,025,000, the light blue bar, is for utility, the utility project, and we'll see details of that when we get to the next slides. Then you have 10,024,000 for recreation, which includes the rec center. We have 6,324,000 for public works, and fleet vehicle 2,098,000, facility maintenance 675,000, fire services 188,000, administration 202,000, solid waste 15,000. Next slide, please, and we will see details of these now. So the admin capital of 201,533, we have IT network infrastructure, 101,533, purchase of land, $100,000, fire services, a total of 187,723, purchase of bunker and turnout gear, $50,000, jaws of life to rescue someone involved in an accident, 102,723, and flooring work that will be done at Station 1, 35,000. Next slide, please. The fleet program, the total budget is 2,098,586. This includes lease of 4 graders that was undertaken in 2025. 2026 is the second year of the lease. $273,296. Lease of 2 Volvo excavators as part of that lease agreement as well, $240,108. Wheeled loader for $595,577. 3 light duty trucks, so a total of $207,750. Trackless municipal sidewalk tractor, $110,000. 2 fire engines that were in previous year budgets. This year they're completing the full build of those. The chassis were budgeted for in previous year. And this is final payments for those 2 fire engines, $480,000. And we did have a grant for that purchase. Tanker trailer purchase, $81,855. Backhoe loader for solid wastes, $110,000. Next slide, please. And the capital projects for public works, a total of $6,324,000. Public works, lighting and cameras at the public works building because of vandalism that have been going on. $110,000. Eastdale Pit hydro upgrades and easements, $140,000. Active transportation program, $280,000. Ortho imagery, $140,000. Dugald retention pond restoration, $300,000. Cypress Road reconstruction, $2 million. The RM obtained grants, the Growth Renewal Opportunity Grants of $1 million towards this program. Capital Hard Surface Roads Program, $1,800,000. West Oak Bank Diversion Program was in previous year capital budget. So the project is brought forward to 2026. $200,000. Capital Drainage Program, $380,000. St. Boniface Drainage, $214,000. Anola Public Works Well, Fire Suppression, $165,000. Railway Culvert Upgrades, $595,000. Next slide, please. Projects for community services or recreation. The Springfield Community Recreation Center Phase 1, $10 million is estimated to be spent this year on construction. And Prairie Grove Park, $24,000 to a total of $10,024,000. Facilities, the food bank, the Springfield Food Bank building, $500,000. Handy van garage, $175,000 to a total of $675,000. Next. Then we have the utility capital project. Anola water treatment plants will be needing a high flow pump, $50,000. The Lagoon expansion project, $400,000 here for engineering services. Main Street water main project, which is currently on the way, $375,000. The Dugald Oakbank Water Systems, DOWS, $6 million. Dugald Lift Station Upgrade and Force Main Twinning, $3,200,000, so a total of $10,025,000. Then we have the Solid Waste Transfer Station 6th bin upgrade, $15,000. Next slide. We will now look at information relating to the utility fund. The utility fund has a budgeted total revenue of $11,525,251. Looking at the table on the right of this slide, and that is made up of water sales, $645,000, 6% of the total. Sewer charges, $625,000, 5% of the total. Other revenue, $149,000. Grants, this is grants relating to the DOWS project because we have a 50% cost share agreement with the province. So $3 million. We've budgeted a total of $6 million for DOWS, so $3 million, 50% cost share. Transfer from reserve, for capital projects, 7,025,000, and transfer from reserve for debenture, the debenture relating to the utility, 81,167. And on the left side of this slide, we can see the breakdown of that, the portions of it. Next slide, please. The utility operating expenses and capital, a total of 11,525,251. Water supply, 539,000. Sewage collection and disposal, 602,600. Capital grants, 3 million. Transfer to capital reserve. Transfer to capital coming from reserve, 7,025,000. Debenture, 81,167. And then transfer to the utility replacement reserve, 277,455. So that brings us to the end of our presentation. Thank you for listening and watching. Yes.
Sorry, thank you, Amram. Good job there, and excellent presentation package as well. We'll open it up to the public hearing portion now. 10 minutes is devoted to each speaker, so who's ever got Daniel, you're first.
Hey, good evening, everybody. So my name is Dr. Daniel Page. I'm your local computer science professor on Pine Ridge Road. First, I appreciate the opportunity to speak before council tonight at this hearing. I already provided my concerns through basic inquiries last month at the meeting that provided that opportunity. I'm still not satisfied with the amount of increases for expenditures in total. Where last year it was budgeted $38,883,882 and actually $47,143,152, which of course is a roughly $8 million difference to a massive increase of budgeting for a total expenditure of approximately 50 million, which is approximately $11.5 million increase from the budget amount in 2025. That is presently only being planned to be budgeted for even higher amounts in the order of millions. More precisely, as indicated on page 1, almost $52 million for 2027. This strays considerably from what was planned a couple years ago in previous financial plans, such as what was anticipated for budgeting for 2026 in the 2025 financial plan. While my concerns are indeed substantial, I wish tonight to draw my concerns at this hearing to a bigger, more functionally important matter for tonight's proceedings. This is also the reason why I'm not going to be asking particular itemized questions tonight. So I just have like 4 questions, and then I'll just have a closing thing to kind of wrap this up. So I just thought I would kind of pointed and simple question. So I know it was briefly mentioned, but I just wanted to reiterate. So what is the purpose for tonight's hearing?
It's a draft hearing. It's the public hearing portion. We're here to hear from the public. And like you said, we have been hearing from the public throughout the process there. So simply said, it's a public hearing.
Yes. So just to clarify why I asked this, is tonight's proceeding about the document that was distributed to the public by email and in the notice on April 8th, 2026, or the document appended to tonight's agenda page on the Arm of Springfield website?
The one I had was August, or was on the 8th of April. Yes, so it's been adjusted. Is that what you meant?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, the numbers were adjusted.
Yes, so that brings me to my next point. So, sorry, put mine in the podium here. So I just want to point out that there's 2 different documents, as was alluded. So there's 2 different ones. One that was, obviously one was revised. For instance, on page 1, the total municipal expenditure is indicated about $10,000 greater than in the version that was circulated to the public on the 8th. Likewise, there are some other changes. So why does the agenda page, this is my question, it states as of April 8th in association with the revised document. Now, I've been keeping a close eye on, as I normally do, because I normally document the meetings for the public and for help council, is I noticed that the agenda did not actually have a document published on it until, and keep in mind, I have time-stamped versions of the agenda page, because again, I try to help council and the public, make sure they have reliable information to work with. It was not published until yesterday. So, so the question is, so why does it state as of April 8th on the agenda and not April 14th?
So I guess maybe just to clarify, the only requirement is to provide public notice that a public hearing is being held to review the 2026 financial plan. So the agenda, the attachment that we gave a week ago are not requirements. It's something we've done as past practice. So it doesn't null and void this public hearing tonight.
Yes. No, so I'm not saying that for that reason. So I'm just asking, is council aware both documents are available on the RM Springfield website? It has not been updated since the initial document was released, nor has it been indicated that this document has been updated to the same pool of individuals that the initial document was circulated to. So keep in mind, this was sent, it was notified by email. There was a link that was provided. You can go onto the RM Springfield website under notices. That document is the one from the 8th, but in the agenda, there's the updated document. So there's two different ones. Is council aware of these differences? And are you concerned that the public may have not had enough time to review for this hearing?
We were aware at the same time as the public there. This document, like I say, it's a living document basically. So we're aware of the numbers. The numbers haven't really changed a heck of a lot. The number of the changes are in the yellow, so make it that much simpler for people to understand the changes there. And I understand the accounting principles there. It's living documents. I just did the budget there at the library there. So the numbers are changing somewhat. So relatively speaking, what is there, a dozen yellow highlights there? So these numbers are noted like that. So there's no, we're aware of it at the same time as yourselves there, and we're aware of the 8th, and we knew there was going to be changes always. But our Amram wants to discuss that.
Yes, so I should have stated this even before the slide presentation. But again, that was why we highlighted those cells in yellow to draw residents' attention to it. And the change really that we made that affected the budget, you mentioned the $10,000 difference. It's a minute amount relative to the budget size. But then this has to do with cemetery services. It just so happened the cemetery committee had a meeting after this document was posted on April the 8th for residents to have access to it. And estimates of what their costs would be 2026 was then presented to management. And so that small increase in cost of 10,000 was factored into the budget. That is the only thing that affects the 2026 budget. Now on page 2, there are changes highlighted in yellow, which relates to the 2025 actuals. The change does not really affect the total because the total amount was already captured. But I updated those numbers because that shows the transfers from the reserves, from the various reserves, for the 2025 capital projects that were undertaken. So I wanted to reflect the actual amounts of transfers from each reserve, general reserve, for the project it funded, but it did not affect the total in any way. It's just breaking it up and reflecting the true amount. And that was for 2025 actuals. That's all.
So again, I'm more so stating this about the integrity of the process. So if information is given to the public, then it's changed within like a day. Say, for example, you're an everyday person, or maybe you're like me, I like analyzing things very carefully. You may spend a weekend looking at this document. So for some of them, it might throw them through a loop that there's suddenly some different numbers. But that being said, I'll just kind of wrap up my comments. So, so just because I want to understand what I can get from this. So it appears there's a possibility for confusion over outdated information regarding tonight's agenda, and I'm concerned that we all, referring to council and public, may have reviewed earlier the same documents. For the sake of transparency and to ensure council can stand behind this budget with confidence, ensuring everybody can review the actual documents is important, as well as having there be more opportunities formally on the record to do so. In a time where people are seeing the need to save money, the government should not be expanding its footprint in various ways so aggressively in 1 year. Through various initiatives, such as some infrastructure and administrative expansion, and the possibility of large concurrent capital projects. It's not clear to me at all what people in this is what people in our municipality are actually asking for from our rural municipality. I look forward to seeing a revised budget that reflects a commitment to fiscal prudence, responsibility, and respects the economic challenges faced by our communities in this arm. Thank you. Have a full day.
Thank you very much, Mr. Page. What's that? Okay. Thank you very much. Somebody's on the line. Karen? Karen, can you hear me? Karen, we'll come back to you. Somebody in the audience? Edwin?
Good evening. My name is Edwin Giesbrecht, resident of the RM Springfield. For clarity of record and for the public, my comments this evening relate directly to the 2026 financial plan currently before council and the ability of the public to meaningfully understand and assess that plan. It's not a single issue. It is a pattern affecting the reliability of the financial plan. On March 17th, a 48 to 52 page financial analysis based entirely on RM audited records was provided to council. Council had that information. The public did not. That analysis is directly relevant to the 2026 financial plan as it reflects the historical financial performance that informs current projections. As a result, the public is being asked to consider a financial plan without access to the same supporting information that was available to council. The audited financial record shows a consistent trend through 2021. Beginning in 2022, expenditures begin to outpace revenue, a shift that directly impacts the sustainability of the 2026 financial plan. The scale of changes reflected in the 2026 financial plan indicates that substantial internal financial adjustments have occurred. The concern is not that this work occurred. It is that the public has not been provided access to the same information necessary to evaluate those changes. Now, within the 2026 financial plan, transfers from reserves increases from around 4.58 million to 13.68 million. Fiscal services increased from around 10.73 million to 20.74 million. Transfers to capital increased from around 9.52 million to 19.52 million. At the same time, Other revenue drops from 23.42 million actually to 14.71 million rounded out on budgeted. These are not minor adjustments. These are material components of the 2026 financial plan. More broadly, across multiple years, there have been material variances between financial plans and audited outcomes. This directly impacts the ability to rely on the 2026 financial plan as a reflection of expected financial performance. This raises a further concern. If amounts reflected in audited financial statements, the financial plan, and the taxation bylaw are not consistently aligned, the question becomes which document governs the financial position being presented to the public for approval. Because if those figures differ without clear council resolution, this affects the integrity of the financial plan being considered this evening. The draft provided to the public was presented as of approximately April 8th. The version of 2026 financial plan now before council reflects changes made within a very short time frame. As a result, the public has not had a reasonable opportunity to review the financial plan in its current form. So the record reflects the financial plan before council contains material changes. The supporting analysis was not made publicly available, and the public has not been given sufficient time to assess the plan being considered. This directly impacts the ability of the public to participate meaningfully in this hearing. The expectation is simple. Same information, same time, same access. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Giesbrecht. Karen, are you there? Karen, can you hear me? We'll come back to you, Karen. Somebody else in the audience? Nobody else? Okay.
Good evening, Council. My name is Jill Overall. I don't have an accounting background, and so some of this is a little difficult to follow, but I'm really concerned about our tax burden. And so I understand that when this council took office, you were probably $7 million in debt. You might at this point be just less than. Mr. CFO, could you give me a number that you're projecting that we will be in debt at the end of this budget, please?
So the outstanding debt at the end of this year's budget will be about $5 million at the end of 2026.
$5 million.
Yes.
Okay.
So the 7 million you pointed, I remember that figure clearly when I came into the RM.
Yeah.
It was about $7 million, but debentures have been maturing and paid. And even at the end of this year, there will be a debenture off the books. So they are maturing and they are being paid. So the outstanding debt is decreasing.
Okay. And my other question is that I see a lot of references to reserve fund transfers in, transfers out. What will our total reserve be after we finish with this budget?
Our total reserve would be, if all the expenditures are undertaken, we will still be around $30 million.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. I don't see the hand up there anymore. Christy is. Okay. We'll try to see if Karen is still around there, but anybody else in the audience?
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes. Sorry,
Oh.
ma'am. Well, it's, yeah. Mrs. Insley?
Yeah.
Sure. We're trying to get a hold of you there, but go ahead.
Sorry, I had to switch to my phone. My computer wasn't working.
No problem.
I just have a question for Amram because can you tell me, with the increase in the mill rate for the council, well, the municipality and the school division, can you tell it me per 100,000, not per 500,000 of house value? So the mill rate increasing for the council, how much does that equate to per 100,000 of property value for the council and for the school division, please?
So,
Basically, you've said an increase will be
yes.
X amount per 500,000 value. I just want to know how much per 100,000 so I
So,
can multiply
yeah.
it by 9.
I'll give you that figure.
Thanks.
So for the school division, not taking account of the home affordability tax credit,
Yeah.
a $100,000 assessment residential, you know, it is 45% of that 100,000 that is taxed. So 45,000. So like Sunrise School Division, that'll be $575.07. Not taking account of the tax credit. And then
Sorry,
for the
I don't follow. I just want a number per 100,000 of house value, excluding the 1,600.
yes, excluding the 1,600, $575.07 for the
That's how much
school
my
tax.
property. That's how much my property tax will go up. School division tax will go up.
That will be the total school tax for the 100,000 assessment value.
So for every 100, I'm not following. For every 100,000 of property tax, it's going to go up $575.07 per 100,000.
That would be the total tax for the 100,000, not the amount it increases by.
I'm sorry.
$100,575 is what you will pay as tax, school tax, for 100,000. So you can multiply that by 4, by 3, by 2, depending on what your assessment is or will be.
So I'm not quite sure if I'm explaining myself properly.
So the Sunrise School Division, the mill rate is 12.779. 12.779. And for a residential property, $100,000, 45% of that is what is subject to tax. So when you apply that rate to it, the tax will be 575.
I'll come back to the school division in a second. So did you say for the municipal council tax, like property tax portion, if your house is valued at 500,000, it was going to add 194 or something to your annual bill?
Because on those slides, we were just showing the increase in tax because of the mill rate increase of 2%.
Yeah, so that would, so if your house is valued at 500,000, you're saying that the annual property tax will increase by just shy of $200 for the year.
I think that was for the school tax, that amount.
But I thought you
on one
said,
of the slides.
yeah, I've done, I can't see obviously
Yes,
the slide.
and that was for commercial property tax. That was the commercial property tax example.
No, I just need to know, like, if my house was valued at 100,000, how much would my property tax go up with the 2% increase of the mill rate?
So I have the figures right in front of me here. So if you had your house $100,000, last year, the municipal tax, you would have paid $435.47. This 2026, the same assessment, you will pay $444.16, and the increase is $8.69 per 100,000. So you can take that now. If your home value is 500,000, you can multiply it by 5. If it is 400, you can multiply it by 4. That is the municipal tax.
So, bear with me a second. So 2,177.32, and this year it's 2,220. So like that, the
Okay.
difference is what again? Sorry, just I don't have a calculator.
So again, you can take what you're seeing on those slides and divide by 5. So yes, to get you to 100,000, what you would pay for 100,000. So municipal tax 2026, we're saying for residential property at a mill rate of 9.870, you're going to pay $2,220.75 for a 500,000 assessment. So I can take that 2,220.75 and I divide it by 5. So for 100,000, I'm paying $444.15 or 16 cents.
So roughly $45 per 100,000 that your house is valued at. That's what it's going to go up by.
I don't think I understand the question you're asking this time.
We're sharing the screen on the Zoom right now. Can you see that screen?
Yeah, I can. So the municipal tax, 2,220.75, and last year it was 21.77. That's a difference of 43.43. So that's
Correct.
based on a $500,000 house. Yes?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So what's your question this time? Yes.
So you're saying that the council, the property tax will go up just shy of $9 per 100,000.
Per 100,000, yes. When you take that 43.43 and divide it by 5, since we used 500,000 assessment here.
Okay.
So in previous years, we've been using 100,000 assessment. And we got feedback from residents that the 100,000 assessment is not realistic given the property values in the area. So we increased it to $500,000. So we were using $100,000 for the tax examples that we were presenting to residents and to council. But then there was the feedback that, oh, that assessment value is not realistic for properties in the RM. So we increased it to 500,000. So resident can take the figures that we're putting forward and walk backward. So this is 500,000. You want to have the value per 100,000, you divide by 5. The same thing when we're putting examples for $100,000, it was to multiply by 5 for somebody who had 500,000 assessment.
Yeah, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, but it would, for me personally, and probably others, like if the numbers were done per 100,000, it would be a lot easier to calculate rather than divide by 5, then multiply by whatever. But like that's me personally. So the school division one, just so that I've got this straight then. So the school division tax increase, again, for a 500,000 500,000 valued property is going to increase by 194.17. Yeah.
Yes.
So divide that by 5.
Divide it by 5.
38.83.84 per 100,000.
Yes.
So if I multiply it, so holy cow. So that's going to be 350. I've got to pay extra for the school division, and whatever it was, 80
But
bucks.
again, the home affordability tax credit is not factored in these numbers.
No, I know, but like this is just, it's still going to be calculated, but then they're going to take the 1,600 off. So, but I just need to know what the full bill was going to be and how it was going to be calculated. So, like I said, I mean, for me personally, and like I say, I'm sure a lot of others, just doing it per 100,000 would make it a lot easier to calculate. Yes, we've all got calculators on our phone, but I just think it would be a simpler calculation. That's my opinion. And the other, now that you've clarified that, the other question, if you could go back a few screens, there was something about a surplus or transfer of reserves, something to do with the rec centre.
Yes.
Like, yeah, keep going back, I think. Oh, no, that's a bit too far.
Slide 12. Slide 12. Okay. That is the sources of revenue, the general operating fund.
And I apologize because I missed like what you said was like, have you transferred some funds from a reserve to pay for some of the expenses for the rec centres? Did I understand that or hear that wrong?
So yes, we're transferring $1.1 million from the accumulated surplus reserve for the rec center.
The accumulated, sorry.
Surplus reserve.
And that's going to be transferred to the operating.
Yes, to cover a portion of the cost.
Okay, I just missed that like comments, like I wasn't quite sure where it was coming from and where it was going to. So
and just to add to that, in our previous meeting, also in one of our meetings, we mentioned this year's capital budget is funded entirely by reserves, grants. The capital projects are not levied for in this year's budget. It does not affect, they don't affect the mill rate.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Like I say, it was just the calculation per 100,000 that I was like having my trouble getting my head around that number. So no, thank you, Amram.
So thank you for that. Maybe we will incorporate it in next year's budget to have both examples for 100,000 maybe and 500,000 as well.
I know, like I say, just for me, it's just an easier calculation, just rather than dividing by 5, multiplying by 9, adding 32, whatever. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
The name is Margaret Aikins. Okay, couple of questions. One is in capital projects. You've got the twinning, the lift station and the twinning for $3.2 million.
Yes.
Is that the total cost of the whole project? And is the RM paying for the entire project? Because my understanding was that Russell Development was supposed to be paying a portion of this.
So this is the estimate of the cost of the project, $3.2 million.
And are we recuperating anything from Russell Development?
Yes, it's my understanding.
How much?
That amount is not yet entirely determined because the developers, they pay their development levies.
I know they pay their development levies, but this is above and beyond development levies. This is a capital project, which it's not required except for the development of Rossel. So I want to know what we're going to be recuperating from Rossel.
I currently don't have that exact amount.
Does anybody else, Mr. Mayor?
We don't have that amount determined yet.
What kind of percentage are you looking at recuperating for this capital cost?
So that would be included in
And
their,
it should not be included in levies because it's above
I
and beyond.
was going to say that will be included in their development agreement, and that's still being negotiated.
So we're going ahead with the project before we know what we're going to be able to get back from them.
Correct.
Okay. Also then, the other question is, what page is it? On this, budget, on the, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4th page for, equipment equipment fuel. Have you taken into consideration the costs and of fuel going up regarding the war with the United States and the Strait of Hormuz?
We factored increases in our operating budget based on managers' their best estimate. So the cost that you see there for equipment fuel has to do with some kind of a device to help to manage the issuance of fuel.
Has the consideration of the war and the closing of the Strait of Hormuz, because fuel's already gone up 30%, is that included in this budget? Is it estimated in this budget? Or are we expecting that there's going to be a considerable larger increase if the status quo stays?
So estimates from managers had factored in some form of increase. That's why we have the increase in our operating budgets, about 1 million plus in our operating budget. So some increases are factored in even for things like electricity, hydro. But to say we can determine what the full impact will be based on what is happening in the Middle East and is factored on this budget, I would say no.
Okay, so there could be a large increase there, substantial.
What are the management numbers?
Yeah, well, obviously the management numbers was prior to the war because
Yes,
this
these numbers, these estimates, we had them before
Prior to
what
the war.
happened in Hormuz occurred.
Okay. Okay, what's the other thing? Oh, I just wanted to reiterate what Dr. Page said and Mr. Giesbrecht, that they have very good points because really, with the changing of the dates and the continuing changing of the budget numbers, it's like it's a moving target, and putting out the budget the day before and expecting people to be able to jump on it and read and assess and ask questions is it's not fair. I think it's showing a lack of transparency, and it's like having missing information and too many changes. The other thing I want to ask too is, again, you're giving us this budget tonight, but on it, it says draft. So this isn't actually this could be changed again. So we're having, pardon?
It's just a living document, they've already stated that.
Well, yes, I'm quite aware that it's a living document, but we're having a public hearing here.
It remains a draft until council approves it by resolution.
So is there going to be an opportunity if numbers change again?
So council has an opportunity to change the budget, and depending on what the change is, it could trigger a second public hearing.
Oh, it could. Okay, that's good. Thank you very much, all of you, for answering my questions.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other questions in the audience? Darryl?
Darryl Speer, Springfield. So what would warrant another hearing if there's a major change? What brings that into play?
I will look that up and I will let you know in a minute, but I would just
Pardon?
say, if you want to continue on, I will look that up and let you know.
You don't know the answer?
She's going to let you
I will
know.
read it up, the act.
Okay. I'm looking at page 3, under police, and it indicates $228,000. What does that cover?
So that's is for the community safety officer program. The wording there should have reflected the CSO program because the police services is no longer operational.
So can you explain to me what the CSO program is?
So the CSO program, we have a CSO officer that does bylaw enforcement in the RM.
So what does the program entail?
I can answer that, ma'am. It's the program. It's they're under our direction. The bylaw. They do a bylaw enforcement, and we haven't had that allowed to us with the secondment of our Springfield Police Service there. So they're essentially, it's the one person that's on a 90-day temporary contract out there to. Public safety is an issue there, and visibility. So the police vehicle has been outfitted to be far more visible, so people can see them and see our constable out there. He takes direction from the CEO with regards to. I know there's an intersection that was lots of accidents, and I've had people approach me on people going through it and then stunting by the arena. So he's going. That's his focus, is to address these issues there, and that's their task. They did a fraud presentation, I believe, last week there for our seniors there for scams, because they're a high target demographic there. Councillor Warren, I believe, attended that. So it's a community safety officer. They're peace officers under the Police Services Act.
Has this passed the review of all of council?
Yes, we approved the contract there. It's a 90 days there, and then we'll be reassessing it after that time as well.
In terms of the mandate?
Yeah, they have
Not
a
just the
mandate.
wages.
He has a job description there to address public safety, bylaw enforcement, and other community initiatives that we want done. And like I say, he's been going to the schools, trying to get out there to the seniors there and to people in general. The idea is to go out there and let the people know that although the RCMP can't be in every place at all the time, their community safety officer is only in our 4 corners of the RM of Springfield. Although he has peace officer status in the province, so he can go anywhere.
Does that make him a constable?
No, Mr. Spears is talking.
Well, I guess my understanding was that with the conclusion of the Springfield Police Service, that there was going to be some input from the public as to what they would like to have for police servicing in Springfield. Am I wrong?
Yes, we had
And
that.
has that happened?
Yes, we had an open house a month and a half ago. It was at the Baptist Church.
So I think the question was, did council hold public hearings specific to the police? That's
No, it was an
happening.
investigation of what the community wanted for policing.
So
It's supposed
council
to be
made
some
the
kind of
decision.
referendum.
Council made the decision to put in place an interim community safety program. And then they committed to going out to the public, and we're hoping that happens in May. to review the options with the public and get feedback.
So how does it bear on this budget then?
Sorry?
How does that bear on this budget that you got
So
here?
it's under protective services.
That's the amount.
Page 3.
So the amount you raised there for the police services, that is for the community safety officer program. But again, that staff is working from the building where the police services was. So some of that costs include existing contract costs that the police services had entered into, and some of it includes administrative costs, you know, because they're using the same office space, and also the salary costs for the position.
So it's line 2100 of the financial plan.
So if he's doing policing, I'm not clear on what that exactly means. If he's doing enforcement, which is supposed to be part of the package, I'm expecting that there's going to be some fines levied that we would collect on that basis. And I'm looking at page 2, and it indicates a drastic reduction in the evidence of policing, which is fines, goes from 25 to 76, 100, goes down to 27. It was budgeted at 76. We came in at 27. And for this year, 26, 6,100? Is that possible?
Yeah, council's priority was not to be out there enforcing tickets like the police were. So it's more of an educational program where he's out giving warnings, working on bylaw enforcement. He does parking and Highway Traffic Act tickets. But at this point, he's not issuing fines. He's issuing warnings, and we're trying to educate the public.
That's not evidence of a police work. The evidence of a police work is getting out there and you generate stats from that. Evidence of police work is not confined to tickets.
He's not doing police work.
He does provide a quarterly report or monthly report to us, and that's all.
I saw those reports. I didn't see anything about enforcement there.
Well, that's all part of it. He's gotten calls for traffic, assisting the fire department at traffic incidents there, fire department and all that. So that's all in there. That's enforcement. Enforcement's not with a strong hand giving a ticket out there. Enforcement is showing visibility and letting the public know that you're around. It's all encompassing.
Well, we've had numerous calls for enforcement, and it doesn't seem to happen, whether it's with a CSO or with a Springfield Police Service when they were operating, and with the RCMP, too busy. So I guess, we got lots of issues here that have been left just dangling in thin air for years. That was brought up at our open house. Defunct gravel pits. No enforcement. Why? We got a community service officer. He should be getting geared up to do what? As regard these pits. Can you tell me, based on your job description, what they're going to be doing?
If he sees a vehicle parked on the side of the road there, and he can have it towed under the Highway Traffic Act. I've towed hundreds of vehicles from the
We're
pits.
talking ATVs, dirt bikes,
Well, yeah, but
snowmobiles,
there's no provision.
watercraft.
Yes.
It hasn't happened so far. So I think I would ask that there be some kind of a advisory board. We had a police board before, an advisory board that deals with the oversight of this particular function.
So the CSO falls under the CAO.
Pardon?
The CSO falls under the
No,
direction
you
of the
got it
CAO.
wrong. I'm asking for a public board. to work with this community safety officer, policing service, whatever you want to call it? Can we have a commitment to that?
This is the budget hearing here, but
Yep.
we'll take that under advisement and we can discuss that. But I would say no, because a tier 1 police service has to be governed by a police board. This is a community safety officer. There's a different provisions, although they are under the Police Services Act. They have to provide a certain amount of training and training provisions there. To have a board to dictate what the CSO there, I think, is just another layer of bureaucracy. That's just my opinion. So it's up for council to discuss. I don't see any reason to have another layer of bureaucracy. That person or persons is under the direction of the CEO for addressing hot issues that are coming before us. Break-ins in the industrial area. The CSO goes out there and he provides a strong presence for visibility there. And we just had a meeting with the Chamber of Commerce last week, and our CSO was there and answered some questions. Brought the police vehicle there, and they saw the vehicles, and so they're out there actively pursuing the mandate, and visibility has always been a very strong mandate.
Well, maybe there's something wrong with my memory, but it seems to me that when we had a police board operating here, we had a police board, Springfield Police Service, we had a police board that was working with the board, the police, and citizens on patrol.
Yeah,
So
and they do that too.
Why would we not have that same role with the community safety officer?
I'm saying
He's
we
doing
do.
enforcement, if he's handing out tickets or quasi tickets or whatever.
Yeah, I'd much rather him give a warning out than a ticket, to be honest with you. You get far more points by giving a person a break there and showing him that you're around there. That's just my personal opinion there. He doesn't take direction from me or anybody else on council. Takes direction from the CEO, and the CEO takes direction from us. And we want to see more visibility and getting out there and addressing issues. And like I say, the CSO constable did a program for fraud for our seniors, scammers there. And that's a high prevalent a concern for our seniors.
Yeah, I understand that. We had that before.
Okay, but I'm not sure where we're going with this
What
there.
we're going
But
with it is, I think there should be citizen involvement in the direction of this particular thrust you're going on. That's what we had before. We've had it in the past, and it should continue, and it should be budgeted accordingly.
okay, I think Councillor Warren had her hand up there. She might be able to
I
ask.
just want to clarify with Mr. Spears and public. Our CSO does meet with the COPP, so our CSO is really working well with the COPP. We heard last week at the industrial park meeting that from the COPP representative that they do work really, really well, watching all the areas. You want a board. I think you have to, council or the RM would have to really look at what the Manitoba provisions are for the CSO program. Like we heard at one of the functions that we went to where there was a presentation on the CSO program, that the CSO is directed by council, well, by the CAO, sorry, Colleen, with our direction, whether that be visibility. Like, okay, tonight is actually another fraud evening. None of us are there. We're all here. It's in Enola. I do believe tomorrow it's in Cooks Creek. You'll have to just check before you go there. But just saying. But Mr. Spears, by all means, our CSO is out there. When you look at the number on the budget, and going forward, we will be going out to the public come May. When you look at the budget, the police service last year, basically was done in August. So we didn't hire the CSO program until, what was it, November-ish. So like, we're all kind of still, just whatever it was, the end of the year. Anyway, so when you look at those numbers, the CSO still needs a building to be under. So he's still over there. The phone number is still the same. If you have an issue, you can phone the 444 number or call 911, and hopefully the RCMP will get there in a reasonable time. When we talk budget, that is part of his numbers. We are also, what was the bigger number was for, there was one other bigger number on that for the policing.
Oh.
Or not the
In
policing.
2025. That's
Anyway, so that 200 is for his wages and for the building and for the vehicle. It's all intertwined, and with our contracts that we couldn't get out of when the Springfield Police disbanded, we still have contracts that we have to still follow through with, whether it be for body cameras, stuff like that. So we still have that carryover, even though there is no Springfield Police. We have a CSO that works well with the COPP and with the RCMP. And it's that togetherness that makes this work.
So you have a model you're working off, is what you're telling me?
Do I have a what?
You have a model that you're working off?
No, it's the CSO takes direction. We also have to, if you want to look at some kind of a public board, we would have to check with the provincial legislation on that going forward.
I think my point is there must be a model. Are we following the model or aren't we? And what do we need to do that applies to a financial plan, for example?
And we will have all those discussions in May, and maybe by then we'll have
We should
more
have that
information for
discussions
you.
before May.
Well, the budget is still only for his wages, the building, the vehicle, the cameras and stuff at the moment.
The model precedes the budget, is my point. The other thing I can't quite follow is, where does SHHI fit in this whole situation?
SHI is part of the community services or recreation services, as part of service to seniors.
So where do the reports go to? Like, are they available to us?
Oh, you mean report for specifically SHHI?
Yes,
SHHI has its own board.
but it's under the RM of Springfield, right?
SHHI, the only member is the RM Springfield, so the RM Springfield is the.
Okay, so how do we get reports?
What kind of reports?
Financial?
So their financials are included in our statements. So
It's in this statement here, the one you're presenting tonight?
correct.
Where?
So when you look at recreation services, we've talked about this in previous financial statements presented to council.
Which numbers?
Let me take you to something.
You're talking about this report here?
The financial plan, yes, there is
What page?
community services.
I think it's under line 8190.
So you can see service to seniors there, the 2025 actual, a significant amount,
What page are you on?
page 5. It's 190, services to seniors.
You said 1950?
It's 190 on page 5.
Services to seniors.
Oh, I see, okay. And this year it's only going to be 143?
Yes, so we did not budget for their construction costs. And we can see like in 2025, there's a huge amount of over $11 million
Yep.
because those costs are just to flow through to the RM. What we have in 2026 as budget is not directly cost for SHHI. We have a staff in-house because we have services also to seniors and there is a staff. And so you have some admin costs here as part of that 143,000. You have the staff salary cost in there, and part of that cost is covered by a grant provided by the province for this staff that provides services to seniors. So there is just a small amount that we capture in here for some of the operating costs relating to SHHI.
So who carries the liabilities for that whole development?
What way liabilities? We have insurance.
Other liabilities? Pick a number. I mean, could be anything.
Well, I don't know your mind. What were you thinking?
There's, say, fraud, for example.
Well, then we have insurance for that. It's also got the pool in there for our seniors and our youth. We're going to be having programs for all of them in our pool there as well. So it's not just the dual estates or place. It's the pool as well.
So
Liabilities we are covered by insurance.
who's the insured?
Western Financial or somebody.
They're under our municipal insurance policy.
RM Springfield?
Correct.
Not separate?
SHHI is RM Springfield is a sole member. So yes, we would provide the insurance under our RM Springfield policy.
Well, those are my questions.
Thank you, Mr. Spears.
So just clarify, you'd asked when a new public hearing would be required. So that is covered under section 162(3) of the Municipal Act. And it basically says another public hearing conducted if council changes the budget to increase the estimated amount of a transfer from accumulated surplus and reserve funds, or if they increase tax referred to in the operating clause. So if the mill rate was to increase, they would have to hold another hearing. Also, if any of the capital budget increases, they would have to hold another public hearing.
That information is available to me?
It's all in the Municipal Act, yeah,
you-
under section 162(3).
Could you provide it to me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spears. Anybody online? See nobody in the audience? You've already had a time, Edwin. Mrs. Nylen. Mrs. Nylen's next.
Thank you. My name's Janet Nylen. Thank you for the presentation. It was very showy with a lot of detailed information that would have helped if we had had it ahead of time, perhaps. I noticed there was no comparison with 2025 actuals. The comparisons were with the 2025 budgeted amounts. Also, I didn't see an overview of transfers or of reserves in the document. My comments before my questions. The overall assessment for Springfield went up $37.5 million with general municipal mill rate of 9.417. This would bring in via taxes an additional, I calculated as $703,497. In the 2025 year-end financial statement, it showed a surplus of $1,013,350, as well as an additional or over budget contributions to reserves of 3.6 million. To my mind, this additional contribution with the surplus would indicate that Springfield taxpayers were overtaxed by $4.6 million last year. And this year, the budget is not adjusted for that. Along with the additional $703,000 gained by added assessment, budgeting for expenditures for the municipality, in my opinion, is in excess of $5.5 million. Or in other words, we're being taxed too much for what work is getting actually done and what we're, as taxpayers, receiving. I'm always interested in the number of employees that the municipality keeps adding, and in the past year, 6 additional full-time positions were reported, and 2 part-time union and non-union positions were added. Seasonal employees were reduced by 1 full-time and 1 part-time employee, for a total of 70 full-time employees and 9 part-time employees. There were also 19 seasonal employees, and 10 additional firefighters were added to make a total of number of 80 firefighters on the payroll. Our payroll increased by over $200,000 for this budget, even though there were no Springfield police officers for 5 months of the year. Personally, last year, my municipal taxes went up by $300. This is just not including the school tax. This is before the expenditures that we're going to see for borrowing up to $80 million, and they haven't kicked in yet. They're going to be coming in over the next 5 years. How do you think the average taxpayers are going to be able to afford such tax increases? Now, at the beginning, the mayor said we would be limited to 10 minutes. I can ask my questions and in the 10 minutes, but if you want to answer them, I would ask that you give additional time for the answers to come as I ask the question. Could that be possible? I'm asking.
How many questions have you got?
8.
8 questions.
Oh, you got 10 minutes. Give us the questions and we'll answer them.
I'll read them right through and you can figure out the answers then. Doesn't make sense to me. We have a $50 million budget. We have 9 people in the room. We have maybe 8 online, and we can't take 2 hours to answer 8 questions. I don't know. I'm asking maybe if council will give me leave for a longer time. The version of the financial plan distributed on April 8th as advertised is different than the one tonight. It's been talked about before. Not all changes were shown in yellow, but a number of them amounted to only $10,000. Given the size of a $50 million budget, I wonder if it was necessary to make all those changes and highlight them for just $10,000. Can you explain the differences in the amount shown on the December 31st, 2025 financial statement and the ones that appear in the 2026 financial plan under the 2025 last year actual? For example, the transfer on page 2, transfer from reserves was $3,443,075. What was showing on April 8th was $5,180,000, $926. And tonight is back to what it was showing on the earlier amount. The difference in that is $1,737,851. I wonder where that money is reported elsewhere.
So if you look at the document that was shared on the 8th of April, page
Mhm.
1 of that document,
Mm-hmm.
you will see transfers from reserves, which says this number is coming from page 2.
Mm-hmm.
That was $3,443,076.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that number is still the same, even on
Yes,
this document.
what is
That's the
tonight.
total. That's the total of the transfers from reserves. But on page 2, the numbers that were shown there were not the actual number for 2025. They were not the actual numbers for 2025. Because what normally happens when we're making transfers from the reserves into the operating statements, all the transfers are coming into one account. So I have to break these down, the actual transfers from general reserve, from whichever reserve. And by the time we're submitting the April 8th document, those actuals, I have not yet updated them. But the total amount, because it's all coming into one account, the total is the same. That was reflected on page 1. Here is just for presentation. It was not. So these are now the actual transfers from the reserves 2025. So the numbers that were there on the April 8th, those were not the actual numbers, but the total actual was reflected on page 1.
I'm trying hard to understand that, but okay. The difference is $1,700,000. What would make that up?
So there's not a difference. The numbers that were there that make up that 5 million or something, those were not the 2025 actuals.
But that was reported. Now
they were not yet updated. So I updated these numbers after we had posted the document on April 8th, because I had to separate them. I had to calculate them separately from the single accounts that the transfers are made. It does not change anything on the document. And this is the 2025 historical figure. It's the same. So if you add all these numbers now that are highlighted in yellow,
I did.
They add up to that 3,443,000 and 76 that was on page 1.
I don't follow that, but I'll go on. There were a few accounts that last year were underspent by a considerable amount, yet this budget shows a much higher amount for this year on the upcoming year. For example, page 3, transportation services. Line 32110, Administration Public Works.
Yes.
The budgeted amount for 2025 was $1,268,674. The actual amount was about half that, $683,853. But this year, we're budgeting an additional $200,000 for $1,456,826.
Yes. So we talked about those figures when we presented the December financials. So the way we budget for the Public Works Administration, almost all the staff salaries are captured in that admin line. And then as work is done through the project costing, the cost is reallocated from that line to other lines. And so when you take that line with the equipment operations, the difference is really about 300,000 when I calculated it on the December financials. It's what goes on in the Public Works Department in the way they reallocate costs, depending on the projects that they undertake. And let me just get the December financials here. You can ask other questions whilst I try to get back to that December financial.
The next one's going to be about the same. It makes the same point. Under page 4, Environmental Development Services, line 6100, Planning and Zoning. Last year, you budgeted $738,026. The actual was $467,309. And this year now we're increasing it to $846,637. My point is the actual costs that are being spent are not reflected in this year's budget. Like, you're going to the budgeted amount from last year, regardless of why that number was never met, and we don't know why. it was $300,000 below budget.
So for planning and zoning, there was a budget for a project officer for planning and zoning,
$300,000?
not $300,000. But we had a budget for project officer included there, a position for project officer. And that project officer was not employed last year. The position is still maintained in the budget. But then also what is included there also this year, we've talked about the mandatory water and wastewater studies.
Those should be utility costs. Those should not be planning costs, in my opinion.
Those are required under the development plan review, so that's not a utility cost.
I think if we go back to what we did the last time we did those studies, that it was a utility cost. Regardless, I won't argue at that point. What steps, if any, have been taken to scale back costs? Like just to become more efficient? Like it seems to me a lot of these numbers have, increased like 3% or 5% because of, interest rates or cost of living, those kind of things. What have you done to scale back costs, please?
Well, if I may answer your question about public works is a department that they incur significant costs. Just last year, they were in 2024, they were significantly over budget. So sometimes you may see a service center within public works may be under budget, but when you look at it in total, they were actually over budget also in that December financial statement. And so there is allocation of costs that is going on in the project costing. And Holly, you are here because Holly also deals directly with the staff in the public works departments that are allocating these costs as work is being done, whether it is equipment that are used for certain projects, and they are allocating costs of incurred in operating those equipment to those. So costs are being allocated within the department. But if you take that public works general admin, you take that with the equipment costs, all of them, you're gonna see from my figures on the December financial statement that was presented, the variance was about $327,000. So it's just the internal movement of costs within the department that.
I would think there's a more transparent way of showing that, but I'll move on. On page 5.
Okay, ma'am, how many more questions have you got there? I'm just
3.
wondering, you could have sent these pictures or these questions well in advance, and we could have had them answered for you coming in
No,
here.
I can't do that because you changed the statement yesterday.
Yeah, but a lot of the questions here don't have anything to do with changing those numbers. Most of them are not pertinent to that, and we could have answered a lot of these questions.
There's only 7 people here, I mean.
How many more questions have you got?
This is a public hearing on.
My question is, how many more questions have you got?
3.
Okay, then proceed. We'll give you another 3 minutes if you can get that out of the way.
5, 6, 7, 8, 4, I guess. I have 5.
5 more
6.
questions?
I'm on the 5th question and I had 8. On page 6, the utility budget, there's a difference in the operating surplus between the amount shown on the December 31st statement of $1,069.70 and tonight it's $1,351. Has this been approved by council and has the department been notified? Page 6, it's at the bottom. My point is we're changing the December 31st numbers and some things it's insignificant, but other things like surpluses and deficits I think are more important. Page 13, I'll take capital budget, part 1, under the column borne by general fund.
That was page 6.
It has shows $1,100,000 for the Springfield Community Center. And it says on page 5. Can you tell me where it's shown on page 5?
Please, can you ask your question again?
Page 13,
Mhm.
under the column Capital Budget, Part 1, under column Borne by General Fund. There's one entry. At the bottom, it says shown on page 5.
I think that's referring to the accumulated surplus transfer,
I don't get what she says.
the 1.1 is coming from accumulated surplus.
I realize that it's not on page 5 though, which is what the statement says. I believe you're showing it on under.
Oh, this is a transfer coming into the operating statement. So it will be on page 2.
So I did see it on page 2. I guess my point is for transparency and stuff, there are times when you're changing the headings on some of the columns and on other times they're not. So it's not clear when you're reading if that's coming from tax dollars. That's what under the heading would imply to me, that it's coming borne by general fund, right? That like, and that's what would usually go in that row. But it's not clear. Anyway, still on page 13 at the bottom, part 3, borrowing, temporary financing, debentures. I have 2 questions. I guess I'm gonna next one here. Dow's shows $8,813,000, but the borrowing bylaw 2401 allows for borrowing of $12.5 million. I might be guessing that the $4 million less is the amount because of the additional grant awarded, but I'm just wondering if the costs do go over the amount set by the bylaw. Will council not go and borrow the full $12.5 million? Like, I think it would, in my mind, it would be better to report it as the bylaw amount of 12.5 and not use it because you got a $4 million grant, than to say you're going to borrow 8 million and turn around and borrow 12. My last question is that this projects that have already had cost paid by the municipality. For example, the rec center, the original amounts are still being shown, even though there have been a number of expenditures over the last few years that will be applied to them. Just as a quick example, in 2025, $78,770 was already spent on the rec center. That's not being reduced from the amount reflected in the bylaw now. Like you keep putting in the original amount, but over years we're spending money and it's not decreasing the amount in the budget. So in effect, it's inflating what we're going to be paying as a taxpayer down the road.
So really the estimates for that project changed over time, and whatever we've spent before the commencement of construction, we were paying for out of the reserve. So the borrowing amounts have not been affected until when we get to actually borrowing for the projects. We have the capacity to borrow up to the amount provided for in the borrowing bylaw. It could be less than that, or maybe exactly that amount.
Was that the answer to the first part, or this one? I think you've actually answered it. If we're paying that 78,000 from reserves, and then we're still going ahead with what's under the borrowing bylaw, we'll be spending more money from reserves. So the actual project cost is not what's in the borrowing bylaw, it's what we've paid over years plus what's in the borrowing bylaw. So things are costing us more than it's being reported.
So we did consult with the province on this, and the feedback we got was that as long as we're not changing the borrowing amount that was stated in the borrowing bylaw, we don't have to revise the borrowing bylaw.
No, I'm not suggesting you borrow the bylaw. I'm suggesting that the amount, the project amount that you show in your budget is what the original cost was less what we've already spent. so that we know that that project is on target of what was 3 years ago?
Certainly, the cost changed. Even at the time of doing the borrowing bylaw, the estimate that was presented to council to the time when the project was tendered, the cost was different because it took time to get to where we're at now. So the estimates changed, the actual project cost
But
changed.
nowhere, and this has happened on many, many projects, the public has no idea what the total project cost is on any project that we're doing, because we're not showing it in a way that shows what's been done before the project is actually tendered and completed. We just get, so if a project goes over 1 year, and it can go up to 5 years, we have no idea of what's been spent on that, the way it's being reported. I guess I'm asking for either some other way of reporting those things for the complete cost of projects, or that you reduce the amount the next year by the amount we spent the previous year.
So I think we made that information available to you at some point last year when you requested for it. We went back looking at what was spent on this project over the years. And
Can you tell me what was spent on the Dougal water treatment plant expansion that happened already?
I don't have that information here right now.
Because it was 5 different projects. Like, it was named different things. That, I'm just asking for transparency for the public. I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just
I
saying,
understand.
if we spent $5 million on that project, it's not reported anywhere. It's maybe, well, things one place. So I'm asking for, because the projects are getting so big and there's so many of them, I'm asking for better transparency for the public, I guess, basically. And I'll end with my request, and thank you for the extra time. It's that I would ask council to consider our current world situations and the conditions, debt load increases, declining incomes, and amend the budget to reflect restraint, efficiencies, effectiveness, and the needs and not the wants for our community. Thank you.
Sorry, Christy. I don't see any other questions. No questions from council. No other questions in the audience or online.
I'd like to make one last comment.
Okay.
I thought there was gonna be a question period and then you get your summation at the end. It's the way most public hearings are held. But anyways, I would also like to thank Janet Nylen and reiterate what she said in regards to the present time, the situation of a lot of families, seniors, people on fixed incomes, families just making ends meet. And though this budget sounds pretty good, and there's not too many increases right now, but the next council that comes in is going to pay the penalties. And I think it's time that we rein the budget in and think of the people in this community that are going to be hurting from this overspending and the borrowing of $80 million. Thank you.
Thank you. GLS? GL? GL, you
Hi.
online?
Yeah, I seem to be having a problem with my camera.
Okay, we can hear you well.
Okay, I'm getting feedback. Are you getting any?
No.
Okay, it's Gloria Romaniuk, and I'm a longtime citizen of Cooks Creek. and into this draft plan. And I would really like to thank all the citizens who came tonight because they come for no gain, personal gain of their own. They're not paid. They bring such good, knowledgeable information. And I really appreciate what Janet Nylen brings because she has the experience of years working for the municipality. So my question is this. I appreciated the fact that Amram mentioned that the different managers, this was in response to a question about whether there are any efforts being made to react, I guess, to the risks that we're facing, unknown risks with the problems in the East and the erratic behavior of the American president and administration. So the fact that the managers give the best estimates is one thing, but I'm wondering if an employee who has firsthand knowledge of the emissions that, especially people who are using equipment, is there an incentive for employees to come up with ways to reduce costs? And again, I'm going to cite my personal experience with an employee of the municipality, wonderful employee, who talked to me for a half an hour and let his truck run the whole time. And I'm wondering if there's any policy or any potential for policy to shut your vehicle off if you're actually not using it, and if there is any need. When I was a little girl, I was told diesels had to keep running, that you couldn't shut them off. Is that still the case in 2026? That's a rhetorical question. I'm not expecting an answer, but I'm just saying that there may be ways that we can be looking after the environment and saving emissions, but also work that may not be necessary. Perhaps anybody with an interest in native plants and saving the environment will understand how it's really passé now that we are working on lawn so much and having what is called it's a monoculture. The whole idea of growing so much grass and cutting it and all the care. Perhaps Mr. Doucette, when he makes his requirements to approved new builds or new locations, and he has expectations for landscape, perhaps it doesn't have to be just grass and ornamental trees, but it could actually be something that is beneficial to the whole web of life, to the whole. I know that Councillor Fuel and the mayor have given the impression that they have a love of the environment and doing improvement through water. That is a step in the right direction, and I applaud that. But there could be much more. And if we have pressures of financial risks or unknowns, this is a great opportunity to really think about every decision we're making. And I'd like to invite the RM to give each and every employee the chance to contribute, because I think probably, well, most, if not every person is doing things to save and improve, enhance the environment. This is not a joke because we are all dependent on the survival of the land, the air, and the water. And that is similar to what these citizens are doing every time they come before the council. They're bringing you a gift of their knowledge, their time, their effort. Each and every one of the people who came forward tonight has experienced something in their life that's disappointed them in the way the municipality has been functioning. And they are bringing you their knowledge, their point of view, their interpretation, offering that to you. And I have seen, just even this night, some disdain and disregard and borders on bullying to how some of these citizens have been treated. And that's all I have to say, and I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, ma'am. No questions unless something's changed from council. Then if we're prepared to go to an adjournment we can adjourn at 8:04 p.m. Thank you very much. I'll close the public hearing. Could I get do we have to move or a seconder for that? Then we'll close the public hearing at 8:04 p.m. Thank you very much.